Hi friends, welcome back. Today I am working on another 8x8 layout for my wedding album using the Heartfelt collection from Rosie Studios. When I first pulled apart this collection, I split up some of the die cuts and realized there were quite a few heart shapes in there. Obviously it's kind of a lovey-dovey themed collection overall, and there are a lot of embellishments with hearts, but just specifically these like paper die cut hearts, there were a whole handful, as you can see, a whole bunch of them. I thought today that I would use them to kind of create my own pattern, almost like my own pattern paper on my layout. So I've got a 3x3 inch square photo, and I'm gonna kind of just concentrate the hearts at the top of this layout. It's not going to be quite half. It's not quite 2/3. It's just a random kind of size at the top there. But there are all sorts of colors in the hearts. And so basically I'm just trying to make sure that the size is diverse so that all the big hearts aren't all together and all the little ones together. But also that I'm like spreading out the colors, because there are some quite bold colors, and then there are some very pastel colors as well. So there's kind of this golden yellow, there's a darker blue, and there is a darker coral heart that I'll end up using as well. So I'm just trying to spread those over that portion of my layout. I am having some of the hearts extend past the edge of the page and past like the bottom of my layout. So I'm going to cover the bottom with another pattern paper eventually. I'm a little while off from that at the moment, so I've just got my ruler guide there to kind of give my eyeballs a chance to work out the best place for everything. Once I've got everything kind of placed in and around my layout, I'm gonna very carefully start adhering these hearts down. The bigger ones I can use tape runner, and the smaller ones a little bit of liquid adhesive, just very carefully putting them all back in the same place one at a time. Now, some of those hearts do overlap each other. Some of them don't. There was kind of no rhyme or reason to that. I then took a pencil and just kind of traced out some of those hearts. I probably should have done that at the start before I'd adhered everything down, but I hadn't realized that I was going to do some stitching before I adhered it all down. So I just used a pencil to trace around that onto some scrap paper. I used 2 different sizes of the hearts, and I'm just going to cut those out and use them as little stitching guides. So I put the paper on top, and I have stacked my cutting mat underneath there, and I'm just using a drawing pin. Actually, it works perfectly for this to punch out my heart shapes. I'm going to do 3 stitched hearts, 1 larger one and 2 smaller ones. And as you can see, when I'm punching these down, they do overlap some of the other hearts there as well. But basically I'm using the stitched hearts as my visual triangle. So I've got 3 in there. At the moment, the heart background is a little bit just kind of scattered. There's nothing special about each of those hearts, and even the darker colored ones don't have 3. There's only 2. So I'm going to use these stitched hearts as my 3 focal points on the layout. So I've wanted to kind of get a better sense of maybe what the other pattern paper might be on the bottom here, as well as maybe the title before I go ahead and start stitching. I don't want to stitch it in a color that isn't going to work, so to speak. So I went through some of the papers, and like I said, there's a lot of hearts in this collection, so there's a lot of heart papers to choose from. In the end, I went with this really pale pink one because the hearts were a little bit bigger on it. It just felt a little bit more obvious to use that one rather than some of the smaller heart patterns. They tend to just disappear into they look a bit like polka dots rather than hearts. So I did want it to be very heart heavy, so I've gone with the heavier pattern there. And I'm just going to add this straight on top, so I'm lining it up with the bottom of my background cardstock. I just used one of the other papers in the collection. This is one that I wasn't sure how I was going to use, so I'm using the back side of it, and that way I don't waste a single spot of this paper. So now I've got everything kind of basically in place. I can go ahead and pick some embroidery thread. In the end, I decided to go with this very kind of mid-toned peach color. It's darker than some of the peachy pinks in the hearts. It is also lighter than the darker peach in the heart, so it's somewhere in between. And then I spent a considerable amount of time stitching those in. When I punched around my little heart guides, I had left the punched holes like I guess maybe 1/4 of an inch spacing between each of those holes. And when I went to stitch them, I thought I'm going to get a much smoother effect with all of these lovely curves on the hearts if I halve those. So it's about 1/8 of an inch between each of those stitches. It took me a while. I put a movie on. I just sat there and did it. And I love the effect. I'm so glad I spent the effort. I really love the texture on there, and it kind of just pulls that heart pattern all together. So I'm not going to add too much else to like the embellishments of this layout because I really do want the hearts to sort of stick out on their own. I'm going to add a tiny little bit of a cluster, and it's not even really that. It's more just kind of some background papers in behind my photo, and I'm going to use one of the gold glitter titles there on top of my photo. So I just need to make sure that I'm leaving enough room for all of that to fit in there, but just having some of these extra colors on the layout. So I'm adding a bit of the blue and a bit of the more kind of neutral color. So this bottom half has some of the same colors that are in the top there. So you can see I've got enough room to fit my title at the bottom. The photo is going to be more towards the bottom of the page than in the middle. So it's overlapping both kind of halves, the pattern paper and the heart half, and then I can go ahead and just pop all the middles out of this foam title and stick my little title down. I don't think that I got everything like exactly lined up the way it was on the sheet, but it looks good to my eye. Some of them, these E's are not attached and are a little bit thinner, so I am going to just quickly replace those into the right place so that they look good to my eye. And then I decided what else could I add to this layout but more hearts. So that's what I'm doing. In the die cut hearts, obviously they're the larger ones that I've used, but there are also a bunch of these tiny little ones. It's hard to see on camera here, but they are gold foiled. So I liked the fact that it was adding a little bit more gold to the layout. Plus I like the kind of different line style on there. So I've got the really solid hearts, I've got the stitched hearts, and now I've got these gold foiled line hearts as well. I don't want to add too much else to this layout. I'm just going to add a couple of little stickers in underneath to fill in this blank space under my title in lieu of my journaling. All of the journaling for my wedding album is going to be separate from the layouts just because I am working at that slightly smaller size, but adding those stickers under there brings a little bit more blue down to the bottom of the layout, and I feel like it is just perfectly balanced, so I'm happy to leave it there. Hey, thanks for watching today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you again really soon. Bye.